I'm fine with it. It was nice yesterday. I was coming home from Cedarburg. It was in the 90s here, 74-ish. But I guess that was the same. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah, there you go.
Still broke 6 bricks.
He is not coming. We are all here.
You good to go?
One second. It's 4:01. I'll call the meeting to order. Have some sad news to pass along. We learned this morning that Phil Bruno, a member of our Board of Public Works, passed away yesterday on June 20th. Phil was a valued member of our Board of Public Works since 2018. We all know Phil brought a lot of hands-on practical experience to our board, and as a longtime electrician for J. Miller Electric, he always brought a common sense to our discussions and asked essential questions of staff, contractors alike. So the Board of Public Works sends its condolences to his wife, Mary Kay, and family. And I know Phil will be missed on this board and as we move forward here. And if anybody else has any words to share, please do. But Phil was a great member of our committee for 4 years. So, okay. We'll call for an approval of the minutes of the previous meeting. Hopefully you've all had a chance to review any comments or revisions. If not, I will take a motion to approve the minutes of the previous meeting.
Motion to approve.
Motion made by Jim, second by Alderman Tierney. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Any public comments or appearances tonight? Looks like there are none. Moving right along to old business. Anything, Rob, on old business or loose ends? No? Okay. So we'll move right along then into new business. Item A, election of board chair and vice chair. So I'll open this up to nominations for the chair and vice chair.
I would nominate Jason for another term as chairman.
Okay, we have a nomination. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Alderman Tierney. Any discussion? Do we take a vote on that, or do we go to vice chair nomination too? Okay. Any other nominations? All right, hearing none, I'll take a vote on the election of the board chair. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Do we have a nomination for the vice chair?
I nominate Alderman Gasser, but I believe he's been the current vice chair.
We have a nomination or motion to nominate Alderman Gasper to vice chair. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Jim. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Status quo. Going right along. Item B, consideration and possible action on alley bids. I'll turn that over to Rob.
Okay, all right, and Dan, so can I, let's see. All right, so. There we go. Okay, and Dan, what's the button I click on to get a full screen here? Top, oh. This? All right. Like this? All right. That wasn't real. Oh, okay, all right. Okay, all right, thanks. Okay, so in this year's budget, we have just over $200,000 budgeted for alley improvements. As I say in my memo here, we have about 5 miles of alleys. 4 miles, or about 80% of them are in relatively satisfactory condition. I'd say about 1 mile of them is in need of repair. So we've identified 4 alleys for improvements in in this year's program. We put those out for bid. The low bidder is Forward Equipment. They were the low bidder last year for our sidewalk work, which was, again, performed satisfactorily. Their bid was $142,000. I was a little nervous when I put these out for bids because of the escalating prices for all construction, so I didn't want to go over. I guess I decided I'd rather tack one on rather than try and remove one, and so I want to go into that a little bit. So let me quick go over the alleys that we're looking at. So this is the alley between Crocker and Garfield. It's severely rutted. It's essentially disintegrating. It's been on our radar for several years. We finally got some money budgeted for it, so we're including this one. It's only 10 feet wide, which saves on cost. We construct these in concrete because that gives us much better ability to control the grade and control the drainage. So this is one where the drainage runs from north to south, and you may know this is one of our areas that's susceptible to flooding. So not that it really have any kind of impact on the flooding, but again, we're just trying to keep that water from moving down into the yards and convey it out to the street. This one here is just kind of in the southeast corner of Grand Avenue and Spring Street. We have a cross-shaped alleyway, and you'll have some photos of the conditions of these alleys that I'll share with you. And then this last one here is just off of Lakeview, north of Prospect. It's a short alley. It only really serves 2 homes, but we'd originally had this in concrete, but talking it over with JD, I think perhaps our crews can do it in asphalt, and that'll give us funds to do one more alley. And so this one between Second and Third, between Spring and Garfield, is in really bad condition, and in fact the one south of there and north are also in very poor condition, but we want to stay within budget. So let me get my There we go. And 1 second here. All right. Whoops. Hold on 1 second. All right. I see what you're saying. Okay, so here's the condition. This is the alley that I said is in the southeast corner of Grand and Spring. So here's just kind of tells the story of why we selected this alley. So that's it going one way, and here's it going the other way. And when it rains, they look even worse. So if that's possible. So in any case, I think you'll see that this is good use of our,
Looks like permeable pavement around.
but yeah. There's the one between Crocker and Garfield, just off to the left side of the picture. You see what, that's all washout coming, that's basically alley. That's accumulated in the sidewalk every time we have a rain event. This will stop that from occurring. Again, sort of hard to tell, but there's some pretty deep wheel ruts in the pavement. You can kind of see it there. There.
And about how many miles is this, Rob? I know you alluded 1 mile.
So this is
Total in this project.
right. Each alley, sorry, 600, 900, having to do it. So it's 900 for the first two that I've shown you, and then this last one will add about, each alley is about 300 feet long. So the cross alley, so that's like 600 feet. And then another 300 for the one between Crocker and Garfield. And then this one I'm showing between Second and Third is another short block, so.
Quarter mile maybe?
Yeah.
Total.
Yeah. So this is the one where we'd like to tack on. I've talked to the contractor about it, so we'll come back with a change order at the next meeting, change ordering this in. But again, you can see we're ready for improvement in this alley as well. And there's the last one. This is the one we're gonna pave this with asphalt. So it's a little more difficult to or a little easier to maintain our grades here because we can just sheet drain it in one direction to the north. Oops. And so we'll be able to make our dollars go a little bit further.
Yeah, Alderman Gasper.
So in the case of an alley like this, we're not going to add a driveway apron or connect a sidewalk across?
No, I wasn't planning on it in this one. Lakeview's on is probably in the cards for maybe the next 5 years, and I guess I didn't want to build anything that I was just going to be ripping out. Was my thought. So
Okay.
So we were just going to pave that as is for now. But we can talk. With the handicap ramps might be a worthwhile investment, so we'll take a look at that. So mark that down. So that's the story of the alleys. The recommendation is to approve the low bid from Forward Equipment.
Any other questions for Rob or JD on the bids? Okay. There's no further discussion. Do we have a motion?
I would move to award the contract for the 2022 alley improvement project to Forward Equipment LLC.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Gasper. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, moving right along then to item C, consideration and possible action on Bremer proposal for 2023 street design.
All right, go back to the. Do I need to, oh, there we go, okay. All right, so, this will feel like home for Judy. So I'll start with the streets that we've ultimately settled upon for this year after much internal debate between our department heads and myself, and even arguments between myself. We settled on Monroe, Nelson, Benjamin, Webster, Scott, and Washington. Okay, so I guess I'll start with Washington, which I don't have any photos of. So Washington, of course, is connected to the North Slip parking lot development. We felt that now was a good time to do the design work in conjunction with the development of that site. The pavement's in poor condition. There is some ductile iron water main for about half of the block. We don't have a history of breaks there, so that's something we may take a look at moving forward, whether or not we'll replace that water main or not. But at least we want to have the design work. And again, it may not even be something we do put out for construction the next year, but we did want to have the design so that it was ready to go upon completion of the development of the North Slip parking lot. And so that was Washington Street, and then moving up to the Monroe. This has again been on our program for quite a while. This street has experienced a water main break historically about every 110 feet. So over a dozen water main breaks over time. The road itself is pretty much alligatored from curb to curb. The inlets are small capacity inlets. The curb is overlaid with asphalt in areas where the street department hasn't, already gone ahead and patched it. Everything our street department does really does extend the life of the road, but, eventually it catches up with us. So yeah, and also Monroe and Nelson are, two slightly more heavily traveled street than your average local road because of their proximity to the schools. So yeah, because of their, the traffic volume, the intensity of the water main breaks that these roads have experienced, and the condition of the pavement, we felt that these were really strong candidates. So as we went through back in February, kind of the how do we choose what roads we're going to select. Some of the roads we've ruled out because we have either culverts going in the near future, or as in the case of like Parkview Lane, we have to do a little bit more sanitary sewer analysis and as to how that's going to serve potential north side development. So these streets don't have any question marks. They are, and yeah, the pictures don't really do them justice on a day like today, where you have a lot of shadows. But as you can see, like Nelson, it's pretty alligatored in the driveways. You have, the asphalt crumbling in a number of them. Yeah, that one's for Judy. That's her basketball court there in the background. And so this is Webster Street. You can see again, there's pavement overlaying the curb. It's alligatored from curb to curb. It's we don't have quite as many water main breaks there, but we have a strong history in the area. And what tends to happen is when we replace a water main on a street that has a history of water main breaks, it often kind of pushes the problem onto another street. And so, again, it's good to get all these while we're there. So again, this is Benjamin between Whitefish and Monroe. Shot of Benjamin. So, and this is what it'll look like when it's done. So I took a quick picture of Stanford Street. So again, much more attractive and appealing street than something like that. So, so we selected Webster Street for our. We selected Grummer and Associates for design of these improvements. We've been working with Grummer for several years. They've designed most of our street improvement projects. They routinely come in at well under 5% of the cost of the construction of the project. They've always delivered it on time and at or under budget. We have not had any design change orders that we didn't request. We have extremely few construction change orders, almost none over the last 20 years. And they're really super easy to work with. So I guess I'd like to continue that relationship with Grummer. And so their proposal is included in your packet, and I'd recommend approval of Grummer and Associates for design of the 2023 street improvement program.
Any questions for Rob regarding the proposal from Grummer? Okay. Looks pretty good. Then do we have a motion to approve the proposal from Grummer and Associates for the 2023 street design?
I'll move to approve Grummer for the 2023 street design.
All right, we have a motion by Alderman Tierney. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Jim. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, moving right along to item D, consideration and possible action on a request to participate with Ozaukee County in the cost of repairs to Mineral Springs Creek. We also have Andrew Struck here, our Planning and Parks Director, one of my favorite people in the county. So, all right. Turn it over to you, Ron.
Sure. So this, well, here, I'm going to skip ahead to the last slide. So back in 2019, we discovered that a 18-inch interceptor sewer crossing underneath Mineral Springs Creek had been not only exposed, but it had been undermined due to downcutting of the creek, which we feel was probably started in the August 2018 flood, where of course the watershed was flooded then, and we didn't discover it until spring of 2019 that it was undermined, and at that point the pipe was hanging in the air, and so we needed to take immediate action, which we did, driving sheet piling to support concrete, which we placed underneath the sewer and encased the sewer essentially in concrete, and up the sides of the bank of the creek. We had been working with the DNR at the time, and they told us to apply for our permit after the fact, which we did. And now they're telling us that because of what we did, what was once a stream bed is now a dam. And so they're requiring that we restore fish passage to the creek. And so Ozaukee County, of course, who specializes in fish passage, they've been working on improvements, downstream of this sewer crossing, and so have constructed a plan in order to, again, restore fish passage and habitat to the creek. They've spent several $100,000, or they will be spending several $100,000 to implement this plan, in addition to the actual engineering drawings that that they've put together in-house. We're essentially under orders by the DNR to make these corrections, and so fortunately, we don't have to go it alone. We can collaborate with Ozaukee County. And so you have a letter in your packet where they're requesting some assistance from the city, both financially and, in terms of habitat creation, and essentially an agreement that we won't create any disturbances of the creek that will, again, affect fish passage. So here's let's see if I can get this to work. It's gonna work. All right, well, this worked in rehearsals. Oops, sorry. So in any case, it's a video, but you can capture it from the slide. Yeah, that's a bummer. All right. So in any case, this is what's causing the problem. They have a plan to, again, restore the creek. So they're asking for the city to participate in the cost over 3 years in payments of $65,000. Those would come out of the wastewater utility. They're also asking for us to either convey a conservation easement or title to Oakland Green Park. They would like to essentially restore habitat in the area. They've been working with Western Great Lakes Bird and Bat Observatory in order to improve habitat. So we have John Crane here too. John and I, discussed this proposal once we received it, and he can talk about it a little bit. But this is essentially a very lightly used park for recreation. So there's soccer nets there, but there's not a whole lot of soccer playing going on. This has been on our parks agenda for essentially restoring the native plantings in here. So it's good timing that they're requesting this, because quite honestly, we don't have the manpower or the grant power that Ozaukee County has to make these sorts of things happen. So we feel this could be a win-win for the city. And then thirdly, they've asked that they be consulted anytime that we are going to be working in Mineral Springs Creek in the future. And so while it would be an agreement, that would be a memorandum of understanding that would come forward to the council and be reviewed by the city attorney. So we're just agreeing to it in I guess in spirit right now. But again, the idea is that they would evaluate any type of work that we'd be doing in the creek moving forward as to how that may affect fish passage or habitat. We certainly welcome any technical assistance that they can provide. And so while they don't have an engineer on staff right now, they're looking to restore that position with another water resources engineer. And so, working collaboratively with them would be helpful. Like, for instance, when this occurred and the sewer was hanging in the air, I reached out to the DNR and several contractors and consultants, and quite frankly, none of them had any idea what to do. So we came up with our own plan, which was very effective in supporting the sewer, but not as effective in supporting fish passage. So, but again, it's better than a sewer breaking open into the creek. And so we averted what I think could have been an environmental catastrophe. So, both John and Andrew are here if there's any questions for anybody.
What is the reason for the conveyance of the Oakland Green to the county in relation to mitigating the DNR requirement of?
I can answer that, but I'll let Andrew answer that.
Do I have to?
No, you're on.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. Andrew Struck, Director of Planning Parks for Ozaukee County. Thanks for the question, Jason, and the comment earlier. So the conveyance, so all of these conditions really are a function of the grants that we're receiving. So the conveyance, and it doesn't have to be a conveyance. So we put in two options, but basically it's to secure the native restoration that we're gonna that we have planned, which includes Oakland Green. And so the grantors want to assure that in perpetuity and the public access. And so clearly public access exists now as a city park and you know, probably would in the future, but it's assuring that. So it can take the form of a conservation easement or a conveyance. In just discussions, you know, there was some discussions with city staff just about maintenance of that future restoration and, you know, I guess both expertise and equipment and time to do so. So it's really a function of our grant that we assure public access for perpetuity, and that the restoration that occurs, including that of Oakland Green, remain, and that the investment remain. And including Oakland Green was part of our overall grant. As a coastal resiliency grant, we're really trying to pitch not only the fish passage issues, but sustainability of Mineral Springs Creek. And one way we can assure that is kind of, you know, buffering not only other infrastructure. Cities clearly got infrastructure within Oakland Green, as does We Energy. So it's kind of providing that, you know, buffer and that native landscape that can protect that investment, if you will. So that is kind of the requirement of the grant funding.
Okay. You know, my only thought is I was intimately involved with Derek Stroll, you know, 10 years ago or so, when we did the community garden. You know, and that was a pitch site, a proposed site, and the residents were concerned at the time of the loss of the park. I mean, that would be my thought on that. I don't know if anybody else has any thoughts on that park, you know, in terms of residential use. You
I
know?
was just curious, has Park and Rec talked about this at all? Has it been on their agenda?
We hadn't talked about it at the last, this has come up since our last meeting, but as far I can speak for its usage, and it's extremely low. And matter of fact, this aligns perfect with what we had plans for, and the Park and Rec Board was on board with what we were looking for the future. I think Ozaki County is better fit to, more established to get it to where we want it to be. So I don't see any problems there.
What plan was that part of, John?
Just making it more native. I mean, when we talked about reducing turf areas throughout the city,
Okay.
turning it into a more native habitat, and
Was that laid out in any of the plans, city plans?
I believe that's in the corp plan.
Okay.
So if we look through that, that will align with what we're looking for. Yeah, and you know, the other thing is, I mean, that's exactly what we had worked with Jen Phillips Vandenberg from Western Great Lakes Bird and Bat on a grant last year that we did not get.
Okay.
But frankly, it would be difficult for us to match the in-kind service. I mean, it would be a stretch, and we're spread pretty thin already. So to see it go in this direction really helps us.
Okay. Yeah, Alderman Gasper?
So I presume then this would include the entire parcel of the park, including the area east of the old railroad grade that's owned by We Energies, that's up against Division Street? Or is this just the western portion?
Yeah, it was the entire parcel that was included with the proposal, and again, can take the form of either an easement or a deed.
Okay, because the plat in here is kind of a mess because Oakland never went where the plat was. So I don't know if this would be an opportune time to clean some of that up, because there's a Oakland right-of-way that's essentially part of the park that might make more sense being part of the park. There's also an alley that was never constructed on the west side, on the very west edge of the park that was never used. So it's kind of a mess in there right now. I also presume then we would be maintaining, would we maintain separate easements for the sanitary sewer that goes through the park, or would we just have a different agreement for that access?
Yeah, if we're conveying the deed, we would create an easement for the maintaining the sanitary sewer.
Okay. As long as this is being maintained in that we're gonna be doing, or the county's gonna do with it what I was in our corp plan essentially, I can't really see it, this is bad for the city. I would like to see though, when this land was donated to the city from We Energies, if there were any strings attached to it that we might be violating here. And also it might behoove us to take the opportunity to straighten out some of our platting and right-of-ways in here, because we potentially could go and add a little bit of more land to the park here that is essentially the creek bed. It's not useful to us, but it's not included in that because that east end of Oakland does not follow what the platted right-of-way.
Yes, Andrew.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Just to, as far as cleaning up the plat, we welcome that. I think the grant funder would welcome that, and whatever makes the most sense with the city in doing so. We just submitted the current existing parcel for the consideration, so I think that would definitely be amenable. And we still obviously want to have public access and park use. It'd be slightly different, more passive recreational use, but better access also to the creek, and we hope to support that one way or another, whether continues through a conservation easement or a deed transfer, however that works. And definitely to the point of maintaining the utilities, absolutely with the easement, and part of our overall goal here is to do what we can to make Mineral Springs Creek sustainable with the adjacent utilities and the adjacent infrastructure. So that's part of our goals.
And just to ask the question, Rob, was any thought ever given to residential at Oakland Avenue Greens? Adding residential on that street? I just want to do the due diligence on that thought.
Well, I think if it was deeded as a park, we wouldn't have that option.
We couldn't do that at all. Right.
Yeah. And I also think with the utilities running overhead, that would be a challenge as well.
So it's got to remain public use. It's just what it is. Okay.
And one last question. With the We Energy zoning, the railroad grade through there, was there any approach, have they been approached at all to get access at least to that? They probably don't want to sell it because they have their power lines going through there, but to get access to that to do the stream work through that area, that we don't just do a gap in there. I believe at the time this was transferred, I believe that's where the dam was, so that might be why they had kept it at the time. Would have been a bridge in there at one point too.
Yeah, a couple of things I forgot to answer. So first of all, I'll try and address all that if I can, but on the easement with We Energies, we did look at that. It's a pretty basic easement. It would not restrict transfer in our opinion, but certainly have city council look at it. But also wouldn't restrict a use difference as long as it's open space use. I think there was prohibition against development of the parcel though, so I would obviously confirm with city council. But that was our understanding of the easement there. To your point about partners, yes, we currently have permissions and are working with all landowners or many of the landowners in the project area. Well, all landowners in the project area and beyond. So We Energies being one of those, and they've been very cooperative. We've worked partnership with them, actually just down here at the power plant, and Rob is aware of this too. We work collaboratively on a solution there and continue to do so. They're very much a partner and have allowed us access to their their property for stream restoration work, access, et cetera. as well as the private landowners, have all signed agreements for us to work in this corridor on their property. And our goal is to do a little education and outreach and meet with other landowners too up and down Mineral Springs, but certainly within the immediate project area, all those landowners have been informed and are a partner in this. And in fact, just to go back to the history real quick, the dam was a little bit upstream of where Oakland Green Park is. And we worked with both adjacent landowners at the time on that dam removal. And that was largely big. Well, of course, we wanted to accomplish fish passage, but it was also largely because the private landowners were also under an order from the DNR to either fix or remove the dam. And so we kind of stepped in to help out those landowners because it was a significant cost to them to see if we could remediate it and through that dam removal. So again, we've been in this for the long haul, and we're trying to work with all landowners and also kind of hopefully minimize the expense both to the private landowners, but also hopefully to the city. So,
Rob, is there any chance we could pull up the Google aerial view of the parcel just so
Yeah,
we could
sure.
see how it relates in relationship to the creek itself? Sure. So I know it's kind of winds down that road.
So let's.
And then maybe this question's for Andrew. Is there a preference from the county's perspective between an easement or a property deed?
I don't know if I can fully answer that. We're still to accept the grant, and part of that's contingent on getting security of all the local funding. So I don't know if I can answer that at this point, but I think that we'd be amenable to both, and I think it would still be a collaboration on doing this, but as it ultimately resides with whose maintenance responsibility it is, I think we'd be amenable both ways.
Is there any practical difference between either?
Only from, I guess, and I would defer to John, but only from kind of a manpower and maintenance and stuff. As the city knows, we have a very small pocket park by our administration building, Harborview. We manage that as well. This would be kind of managed the same way if in fact it were deeded.
Okay.
There it is.
Can you zoom all the way in there, Rob, a little bit? And then maybe show us where the creek is going through.
Oh, okay, sure. I'll zoom out a little.
And it's both of those parcels, right, that Alderman Gasper was talking?
Right, so the creek is around roughly like that.
Okay.
So what I can here, let me quick. All right, let's see my shoreline zoning here.
Part of the vegetation restoration that we're hoping to do is, Oakland Green proper as we're looking at it, but also that other parcel was to kind of help do some of the restoration of the wetlands in that area. So across the creek.
Well, here I was trying to show the layers come on. Yeah, all right.
Got them all.
I know. All I want is gosh. All right. Sorry for the. Right, that should be close enough, right? There we go.
Okay.
So we'll go one more time. And again, here's parcel.
Is it both the west and east parcel, you said? Or just the one on the west side of the creek? What's that?
It's both parcels, and I can't recall, you can probably tell, I wasn't even sure if they both had separate tax keys, but yes, it was both parcels because it encompasses both sides of the creek, if you will.
Is there fishing on that creek, Andrew?
There is limited fishing on that creek. It's the balance between fishing and and kind of illegal scooping of fish. But so of course the same thing down at the mouth with Saw Creek. So, but there is a nice, well, there is a public access at Oakland Green. The grade allows for it, I should say, whereas it's rather steep ravine stream the rest of the stretch. But on the far eastern edge of Oakland Green, there is a nice public access piece there. So the parcel to the west was also to work on and enhance the wetlands in that area.
For what it's worth, this is where our sanitary sewer crosses. So this is Ravine Street right here. This is Volar right here. Their empty parking lot right there. And anyhow, so yeah, so that's the sewer that was the sewer that was undermined.
If you zoom out just a little bit, Rob, so the dam is about halfway down from Ravine Street, where the old dam was. It's right about where that green dot is, I guess, roughly. Sorry, further up, Rob. Further to the west. Keep going, right about there.
Okay. That's where the dam was.
In there roughly.
What year was that project? I was guessing when I wrote that.
Yeah, I should remember this, and I don't off the top of my head.
2015. Does that sound?
Roughly.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, roughly.
Okay. Any other questions for Rob or Andrew? Okay. All right. Do we have a motion to approve all three requests outlined in the letter from Ozaukee County? And maybe I'll read those quick again. One is the provision of the $65,000 contribution to support construction restoration activities. The other is to enter into a memorandum of agreement between Ozaukee County and the city to detail the collaboration and mutual review and approval of any future project plans on Mineral Springs Park, as well as 3, to enter into a conservation easement and/or property deed transfer to Ozaukee County for the Oakland Green Parcel Park to secure restoration investment in perpetuity. Do we have a motion to approve all 3 requests outlined in the letter from Ozaukee County?
So moved.
We have a motion by Alderman Gasper. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Alderman Tierney. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, thank you, Andrew. Okay, our last item here, E, consideration and possible action on a proposal from Legacy Architects for improvements to the North Pier Lighthouse.
Okay, so this is a budgeted item for, let's get my cursor again here. Hang on. Bring it back. Let me go here and see what happens. Okay, my cursor back on my screen. How is it? There we go. For crying out loud. All right, the PowerPoint presentation. So anyhow, there it is, as you can tell, in need of repairs to the exterior. So again, this is a budgeted item, the design of improvements to the lighthouse. Legacy Architecture put together a comprehensive study of the lighthouse in 2017. It was followed by the city taking ownership of, see if I can bring this over, taking ownership of the lighthouse in 2018. One of the requirements in our agreement with the Army Corps of Engineers is that we maintain the lighthouse in good condition. In order to do that, we need to pursue these improvements. Again, Legacy Architecture was the architect that put together this study, and I'm not sure why it's not coming up. But in any case, so yes, they put together a comprehensive report. We'd like to stick with the same architectural firm, and so the estimated cost of the improvements is between $1 million and $2 million. So we will see, but again, the fee that Legacy is proposing is around $55,000. So that's about 2.5% of a $2 million construction cost. Legacy is not only familiar with the lighthouse, but familiar with the process of working with historical structures such as this. They assisted us in obtaining registration on the State Register of Historical Places. So the permitting process that we need to go through, again, they're familiar with all of that, and they're teamed with a number of sub-consultants to perform the mechanical work and some of the finishes. And so, again, they're a qualified firm, and they will be present at the council meeting on July 5th to make a full presentation. But we're recommending going ahead with this work. We do have a grant from Wisconsin Coastal Management Program to cover up to 50% of the cost of the design work. And again, we want to move forward with this so that we can budget for the actual construction of these improvements in 2023.
Obviously, this is beyond just painting. Just kind of summarize, what are the kind of engineering plans or designs do we expect in terms of other structural or?
Yeah, so there's some structural, I mean, it's not super extensive. I mean, it's not as bad as it might appear. But there's structural steel that's deteriorating, so there'll need to be some replacement of that steel. Naturally removing all the paint, which of course contains lead. And so capturing that and removing it
Is an extra, yeah.
more than half a mile out from the shore makes it a challenge. So, in any case, it's removal of the lead paint, replacement of the paint, all the window. I think all of the windows need replacing. They need a new ventilation, essentially a better ventilation system inside, which may be mechanical, although we don't anticipate that it will need to be, but there's just some improvements in that regard. The concrete that it sits on, while it's there's no risk of failure, but it is delaminated and fractured, and so that would be replaced as part of this. What am I forgetting? Yeah, so pretty much again, it's not at risk of falling apart, but it does need some attention to bring it back to its original luster.
Yeah, Alderman Gasper.
You said bring it back to original condition. Does that include the lantern house or lantern room on top? Too, or
good question. I was looking at some historical photos of it, and I saw that. I don't think so. Yeah. So it won't go back to its original function, but its appearance we want to be essentially as good as new.
And I assume that one bullet is a consultation with the State Historic Preservation
Yes.
Office? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So there is some limits to some of the work, or
Yes.
Can't remove historical.
Got to keep it. All right. Well, looks like a good project, and we have a grant for it. So any other comments or questions for Rob? Okay. Hearing none, do we have a motion to approve the a proposal from Legacy Architecture for design of improvements to the North Breakwater Lake.
So moved.
Motion by Alderman Gasper. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Jim. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, moving right along to project updates included in our packet. Rob, I'll let you take that away and hit the high points or whatever you want to touch on.
Well, we're getting into the final, the final weeks of our street reconstruction. We're setting up for concrete today on Sauk Road. And when they're done there, they'll head right over to Park Street and complete the concrete work there, which of course includes curb and gutter. And then we have some new sidewalk going in on the west side of Park Street and on the west side of Sauk Road. So followed by the asphalt work, which speaking of asphalt, we're expecting Payne and Dolan to come back to the city next week and put the final surface on Butel, Francis, Mary, and Grant. Once, again, all this work takes place, then they'll be over on Pierre and Orchard. So they're just finishing up the water work on Pierre and Orchard. We have a number of customers already connected to the new main on Pierre. So yeah, it's moving right along. And then once I anticipate we'll be done well before Labor Day, and then of course after Labor Day, we'll begin the work on Lake Street. Water tower painting is complete, other than I think and honestly I don't know. They're working on the logo, but I haven't. It's done. Okay. So yeah, I was told it would be done by the end of this week. So
Did the logo change at all, Rob?
the logo did change. So we went from essentially the old logo to the new. But when they paint the Mineral Springs Tower, that's just going to be the existing Port Washington logo, if you will. That'll remain as it is. The old logo is free. The new logo costs money. So, yeah.
Like the old logo. Just makes me like the old logo.
Oh yeah, yeah, right. So I think any other highlight? Oh well, all right. And so I don't have much to report on an update on the bluff slide, other than we've been in touch with LNRP, who are reaching out to assist us in terms of funding. We're reevaluating a proposal we received from Miller Engineers in 2020. And so other than that, we're trying to move ahead so that at our July meeting, we'll have more to report.
Alderman Gasper.
What's the status of the break wall additional armor stone that was supposed to go in a year or so ago?
We don't have a commit. The last time I talked to the U.S. Army Corps, and it's on my list to circle back with them this week, I understand that they'll be out in the next couple of weeks. They've indicated that they may be able to assist us in placing armor stone, but I don't yet have any promises. So I think it's basically if there is stone left over from the project they're working on the south break wall, that they may be able to assist us on the north break wall.
Any other updates? No. How far? I'm looking at that picture. How far down the beach is that the bluff? Doesn't look too far, is it? Or is Mile Rock in the background?
Okay,
What's that?
maybe, 100 yards, something like that.
So it's just, is it below?
It's not, yeah, I mean, it's not far from the entrance, really.
Yeah, that kind of stinks. We finally got our beach back.
It's still not great in
Right.
terms of
Yeah, I mean, it's
a sandy beach that you'd want to lay on. So, right, exactly, especially if there's a mudslide.
Yeah, Alderman Gasper?
Is there anything you can tell, or any updates you can give us on the search for a new water plant superintendent?
Yes, we have identified a person. I don't know that he has passed all his physicals and other requirements yet. I haven't heard from Emily. So while we're not stating it's a he, his name, his targeted starting date is July 11th. So we're pretty excited to have a new water utility plant superintendent. We also, yesterday, a new employee in the wastewater department started, replacing Cody, who left us earlier this year. And then we're still zeroing in on a street department personnel to replace actually a water utility transfer. So Ron Pleer is going to transfer from the street department over to the water utility as soon as we have someone to replace Ron in the street department. So essentially three vacancies and two of them are filled. And yeah, I would say the most important being the water utility superintendent.
All right, any other questions on the project updates? Okay. Forthcoming events? Anybody have any forthcoming events? Okay, nothing. Do we have the Plus Delta form today, Judy? Okay, so Judy will email the Plus Delta form. Everybody fill that out when you get a chance. Otherwise, we have nothing left. Do we have a motion to adjourn? Motion by Alderman Tierney,
Second.
second by Alderman Gasper. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We're adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks, Jason.